Here was 1929, February 14th, and the city of Chicago was in shock over the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Al Capone ordered the machine gun execution of 7 members of a rival gang. They were murdered in a Chicago garage. It was a sensational crime, and the nation was captivated and horrified that so many people, 7, could be killed at once so quickly in an urban center. The Chicago Tribune ran an editorial summoning the shock of a society reeling from the scale of that killing. Quote, "These murders went out of the comprehension of a civilized city. The butchering of 7 men by open daylight raises this question for Chicago. Is it helpless? Helpless to stop the butchering of 7 people." Now, a shooting of 7 today, while horrific, it's not even usually the lead story on our evening news. Now, the St. Valentine's Day massacre is remembered really more as a kind of a gangland prohibition history than it is as a political science lesson in, say, gun control. But maybe it was that too, because it did shock the conscience of the nation, and Congress ultimately responded to gun-related murder by regulating guns. Gang violence, in fact, led to several big policy changes. Prohibition, of course, was deemed a failure, was halted in 1933. The very next year, President Roosevelt signed the National Firearms Act, the first major gun control legislation in America. And that gun control used registration laws and taxes to regulate machine guns and sawed-off shotguns. One prominent endorser of that law was a man named Carl T. Frederick, who said that he didn't, quote, "believe in the general promiscuous toting of guns. I think it should be sharply restricted and only under licenses," he said. Carl T. Frederick was the president of the NRA. And the NRA backed that gun control law in 1934. In fact, for the next 30 years or so, the NRA did support and sometimes even wrote different types of gun control legislation. The NRA worked with Ronald Reagan in 1967 when he was California governor to ban open carrying in his state. And the politics of that effort were not about carrying guns in the abstract. They were about Black Panthers carrying guns. The Black Panthers staged an open carry protest at the state capitol, and the particular perception of unrest at the time probably impacted how law and order efforts led to those new laws. But that California ban on open carry, it's on the books today. And the following year, 1968, after the assassinations of MLK and RFK, President Lyndon Johnson signed a new federal gun control act restricting the sale of mail-order guns like the one Lee Harvey Oswald obtained to kill JFK. But what Johnson had really wanted, gun license and registration requirements, was blocked by the NRA.
Voices that blocked these safeguards were not the voices of an aroused nation. They were the voices of a powerful lobby, a gun lobby, that has prevailed for the moment.
A gun lobby. LBJ couldn't have known then the gun lobby would go on to get even those compromise rules from that 68 bill reversed. By the time Ronald Reagan became president, he was again working with the gun lobby, but this time for diluting gun restrictions. Now, even that bill, signed in 1986, did add a new rule barring machine guns. Those weapons, fully automatic rifles, enable you to hold down the trigger to unleash a hailstorm of bullets. And that feature actually has a legal significance. It's nearly impossible to legally justify gun use in self-defense if you are firing indiscriminately, meaning those weapons are literally not weapons for self-defense, they're weapons of war. And that law makes it illegal to this day to buy a machine gun that's made after 1986 and to turn another gun into a fully automatic weapon. Now, everyone knows gun control is an uphill battle. In the 90s, some laws were passed after particularly heinous shootings. The Brady Bill in 1993, the assault weapons ban in 1994, both opposed by the NRA, and that ban expired and remains defunct. And while you can't buy a fully automatic weapon, it is legal to modify a semi-automatic weapon to fire as if it were an automatic weapon. Now, many gun enthusiasts maintain there is a big difference between a fully automatic gun and one that shoots as if it were fully automatic. And that may be how law-abiding Americans use these guns as a hobby, and that's maybe how they feel. And gun manufacturers may agree. Those are 2 views on it. This week showed another view. The view of the thousands of innocent Americans and music fans stuck in that crowd that Stephen Paddock fired into. He had 12 bump fire stocks in his hotel room that night. A bump stock makes the stock of the gun slide back and forth so that the recoil of the gun makes that firing pace effectively indistinguishable from an automatic weapon. Experts believe that is how he shot so many rounds so quickly, spraying that crowd with bullets over and over. Policy is always about trade-offs. We know that. There's a trade-off for gun hobbyists who really like their legal semi-automatics and really like legally modifying them into even quicker firing machines. And absurd as it may sound to say, a trade-off for every person killed or injured by that legal modification in Las Vegas. And especially for those who might not have been hit, had the law simply made it harder and slower to pull off that kind of attack. After the St. Valentine's Day massacre in 1929, many in Chicago did not view those victims as particularly innocent or sympathetic. But the technology used to slaughter them, the 7 of them, so quickly did have the city asking when anyone could walk the streets with a fully automatic weapon, whether that was a good idea. We're asking the question, as the Chicago Tribune put it, is it helpless? Are we helpless? The nation ultimately answered that question then, no, and it took action. There is a legitimate debate about how to regulate guns, and we live under the rule of law, and our courts have ruled the Constitution does protect some gun rights. But historically, there's never been a legitimate debate about when to regulate guns. Today's laws will always be the echo of yesterday's politics. Our politics have forged rules and limits and safety requirements on guns after incidents when their murderous impact swelled beyond what people thought was any reasonable trade-off. Today, Senator Dianne Feinstein introduced a new bill to ban those very bump stocks, which makes semi-automatic weapons operate just like deadly automatic ones. She's also the author of that expired assault weapons ban from 1994. And we can tell you tonight, 25 Democrats have already joined the effort. And though some Republicans do seem open to this idea, other top Republicans say now is not the time for this debate. But the question's never really about timing, because the question is pretty old anyway. It's what they asked in 1929. Are we helpless?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.